This is the 17th season of Bass Talk Live with your hosts, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrat. BTL is brought to you by Lawrence, Bass Cat Boats, APCO, Duck and Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Yamagatsu, The Bass Tank, and Denali Rods. BTL coming at you. Good Monday, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where Ken and I are going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Ken, how you doing, man?
Mark, I'm doing great. I'm on Bass Talk Live. It does not get better than that. So I'm excited.
Well, it does.
My only disappointment so far today, man, is that the guest that you had planned for today is not here. So yeah. That's my preparation for today.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good. All right, okay. First and foremost.
That's the great thing about BTL is we're on the fly, man. Whatever comes up, we're ready.
This is true. So I need to let everybody know our scheduled guest for today, Mr. Michael Neal, he is going to be unavailable to make the show due to the weather conditions that exist around his area due to the hurricane. And obviously our thoughts are with all the people that have very, very challenging days ahead of them. Ken, I don't know if you've seen any of the video on the news, but Category 4 hurricane coming on the shores of New Orleans yesterday, and a lot of people have a lot of work to do, and I know the power situation down there has got to be a priority.
Yeah, the levees did not withstand the onslaught of rain and water as well as I think a lot of people expected. It's tough, and of course now Ida is just tracking that path up through Tennessee and maybe the western part of North Carolina and so forth. So it's going to be a lot of rain for a lot of people. They're going to be impacted. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, he didn't even have any cell service or internet service, so we're going to reschedule Michael Neal, and our thoughts are, once again, with all the people that have many, many challenges ahead of them over the next few days, few weeks, really possibly even few months. So we'll see when we can get Michael Neal back on BTL in the coming weeks. All right, here's the second thing I need to do. I need to kind of go over what the next 3 weeks are going to look like because Matt is not going to be here. He's gone for basically a month. He's fishing 2 opens, and then there's a week in between. He's taken, I think, 12 days to get ready for the open that is on the SLR. So, yeah, he's like out of here. So I have got things set up for really the next 3 weeks, working on week 4 right now. So here's kind of how things are going to play out over the next few weeks. Tomorrow, looking forward to this. In case you haven't heard, Mike Iaconelli has a brand new television show that is going to air tonight on the CBS Sports Network called My World. And tomorrow we're going to have Mike Iaconelli on the show to talk about his new television project and really just kind of pick his brain on a different kind of concept that he has come up with the help of his wife. And I'm excited because I'm actually working on getting one of his guests that he's going to have on his show. They've already filmed it and everything. Kyle Troop, the bowler, actually spent a day in the boat with Mike Iaconelli, and Mike Iaconelli spent a few hours in a bowling center trying to learn how to bowl.
I like it. And I'm excited about Iaconelli's show as well. I've always liked Mike's TV work. I think he's just done an outstanding job generally, whether you're talking City Limits or some of the other programs he's done through the years. I think it's all been really good stuff, and I'm an Ike fan.
Yeah. So Mike Iaconelli tomorrow, then on Wednesday. Obviously, Ken Duke is going to be co-hosting all 3 days. Wednesday, we're going to have Bobby Lane on. We were going to do a Sunline Hotline show. We can still do a Sunline Hotline show. Heck, we could take some phone calls today. We'll do whatever you fans want. But Bobby Lane, I was on the phone with him yesterday. I said, hey, man, you want to come on Wednesday because of the shuffling of some things that have taken place? And he said, absolutely. So Bobby Lane on Wednesday. Then Thursday, obviously, day 4 with Frank Scalish. Now, next week, we have a holiday. No show on Monday. Then a treat. This has been a request for a lot of people out there. Gene Gilliland, probably the most engaged fisheries biologist that people are familiar with across the country, specifically in this region. Yeah, everybody knows who Gene is going to be in studio for a couple days, Ken.
And of course, Gene is the conservation director for BASS. I know that he has, Gene is the conservation director for BASS, longtime Oklahoma fisheries biologist, just an incredibly credible guy. How about that? Incredibly credible.
That's pretty good, Ken.
Hey,
that's pretty good.
And that's why you keep bringing me back on BTL, Mark Jeffrey. Phrases like that.
That might be a new T-shirt. Credibly credible, or credit. What did you say? Incredibly credible. That might be a T-shirt.
I think.
All right. So on the 7th and the 8th, Gene will be in studio. We're going to have a bunch of topics. But if you have any fisheries, biology questions, you might get that line up, and make sure you tune in for those 2 days. Then the following week, a man I'm excited to talk to, hasn't been on BTL. We're going to have Justin Hamner on that Monday. I think he finished 22nd in the Angler of the Year standings. Good dude, man. Really, really sharp, and we're definitely going to get his take on what he did on the Bassmaster Elite Series here in 2021 and what the future looks like. Then on the 14th, that Tuesday, we're going to have Jimmy Washerman, the man that just won $250,000 not too long ago at the Tackle Warehouse Championship, whatever they call it now. We'll have him on Tuesday, and he is going to make an announcement on that show about something that he has going on, and it's very cool for him.
I believe that tournament, Mark, is the Tackle Warehouse Classic Open Red Crest World Series Super Bowl.
I don't think so, but
pretty sure
that's okay. Okay, now let me back up. I forgot to mention something, and I have it here in my notes. Not only are we going to have Bobby Lane on Wednesday of this week, we are also going to have Mike Malone on from Major League Fishing. And Major League Fishing is actually going to announce the 2022 schedule for the BPT on BTL Wednesday. And then later,
very cool.
Yeah, then later that afternoon, they will issue a press release and tell the rest of the world what the schedule is. Why do they need a press
release? Everybody watches BTL.
That's a good point.
The press release is redundant. Joe Opager, Boyd Duckett, Jim Wilbur, Michael Malone.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
They still need to do that, man. It's the proper protocol.
No. Save yourself some typing. Announce it on BTL. The world will know at that point, and you're done. You've done your job. Congratulations.
All right, so we're going to have Bobby Lane on, Mike Malone to announce the 2022 BPT schedule this Wednesday, along with Ken Duke. Pretty cool stuff there. All right, so I am past the 14th. Now on the 15th, another unique situation. Let me throw a name out there. Sean Goodwin. What do you know about that name, Ken?
Sean Goodwin. I know that name. Tell me where I know that name.
He won the BFL All-American.
Okay, there you go.
All right. He's been a long-time BASS angler. He does very well in the opens. Actually finished second in one of the more memorable, back then they were the invitationals on Lake of the Ozarks, fishing a buzzbait when it was snowing. All right. It wasn't Jim Morton. It wasn't Jim Morton. We talk about Jim Morton quite a bit on this show. But Sean Goodwin actually fished the Toyota Series and qualified for the Tackle Warehouse Tour, and he has made the decision that he's going to do that. He's at the stage of his life, and we're going to kind of dive into what Sean is all about. He's going to be in studio on the 15th, and it's somewhat of a unique situation because Sean is kind of like me. He's been in the corporate world for a number of years, 20-plus years. He's done very, very, very well with the company that he's been with for a long time, and in senior management, and now finally is at the stage of his life where he can financially, he doesn't have to worry about anything. Well, that's not true, but you know what I'm saying.
I like that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
he's
you know what I'm saying.
Established, and he can afford now to get out there and do that. What one pro once told me was a recipe for bankruptcy and divorce, which is professional tournament fishing. Yes.
So Sean Goodwin's going to be in studio on the 15th to talk about his next adventure that he has planned for 2022. And he's a stick. And he's one of those guys that we talk about on this show quite a bit, that in certain regions of the country, they have no desire to make that move up the next level because they have stuff going on at home. They have stuff going on in his career. They have stuff going on with their families. They just choose to dominate in their own little areas. And there's guys like that all across the country. Sean is one of those guys.
Yeah, and of course, in your local community, in your local fisheries, there are always a couple of guys like that. And I think those guys are often fascinating. And Mark, I bet you get asked the same question that I do from a lot of those guys. A lot of the guys, down here who won a couple of tournaments, they've had some success. When I lived in Georgia, the guys around Lanier would have some success. They'd ask me, do you think I could make it on the National Pro Tour?
Yeah.
Whether it's MLF, FLW, Bass, whatever. And usually I tell them you'd have a pretty significant learning curve before you would be at that level.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sean in studio on the 15th. Then Frank Scalish will be sitting in that week, and I'm not sure what day, just depending on his schedule, because he has to do filming and stuff like that. We're just kind of working around the weather. So during that week, Frank will actually be co-hosting one of those 3 days, and then obviously he'll have his day 4 show. Then on September 20th, we don't have the guest lined up, but I do have the guest host for that day. Bo Stevens is going to make a return to BTL. Not in studio.
Not in studio.
All right. Okay. But he is going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we'll be co-hosting the show on whatever guests that we have lined up for the 20th. And then the other thing is, yes, I'm working on trying to get some more guest hosts to fill the spots, because Matt is going to be gone, even more, not only this little stretch here, but toward the end of the year in October and November. So that's kind of the layout, Ken.
Bo did a spectacular job a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
When he co-hosted, and he was in studio. He was fantastic.
Yeah.
I was enormously impressed with him on that program. He looked super duper calm and relaxed. It was like a couple of old friends doing a show when you and Bo were in there. It really was. It
was good. He did a great job. And then 2 days that I have marked on my calendar, September 25th and 26th. That's a Saturday and Sunday. That is when I make my return to the PBA 50 regional tour since my accident. So I am planning right now to making my PBA bowling return on the 25th and 26th in Waxahachie, Texas. You ever been to Waxahachie?
I have not, but one of our good friends, Gerald Crawford, lived there for a while. He doesn't live there anymore, but he lived there for a while. So I'm familiar with the town's name.
Yeah.
And apparently they have a bowling alley.
They do. It's called Hilltop Lanes, I think is what it's called.
Hilltop Lanes. Fabulous. Yeah. Well, congratulations on the comeback.
I'm not there yet, man. Something might happen between now and then. No, you never know with me.
You've got a month.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be any big basketball celebrations in that window.
No.
So I'm very confident that you're going to make it.
No. So
that's
kind of the plan. We apologize for Michael Neal not being able to make it, but I am working feverishly to get the month of September booked and set up for all the fans to enjoy more BTL during the month of September. So that's kind of the plan, Ken.
Keep in mind, I'm ready to do the world record smallmouth or the world record largemouth show at your convenience.
All right, we're going to do that in September.
Well, whenever you want.
So we will get a date blocked for Ken to do the world record smallmouth show and definitely get into that. Probably either the 21st or 22nd, depending on your schedule.
Let's see, what am I have no idea right now what I'm doing on the 21st.
I know, that's like 3 weeks ahead.
Yeah,
4 weeks actually.
I've never known you to work that far ahead, Mark Jeffries.
I'm doing what's necessary, man, to get everything booked and ready and lined up.
I think right now I'd be wide open for either of those dates. I can also tell you that I was on the road last week and I had a chance to do kind of a rehearsal on the world record smallmouth show because I ran into Tim Little and Matt Allen from Tactical Bassin, and they're, of course, bass maniacs, and they're absolutely nuts about the world record smallmouth, especially since they live in Tennessee these days. So they were very curious about it. I was quite involved in that record, even though it was caught before I was born. I was very involved in that record, and so we had a cool discussion about it when I was in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Can't wait for that. All right. Have to mention the Johnston brothers dominating once again. They finished first and second. Chris has, I think, 27 pounds on the final day. No surprise there, Ken.
No, those guys are awfully good for Canadians, especially. They
are just adding to their retirement fund. Anytime an event takes place on the SLR, it's like, oh yeah, I got to pony up and add a little to the retirement fund, Ken.
Yeah, it's the Johnston charity event, basically.
Jeez.
Right. They're hard to beat out there. They're hard to beat. The closer you get to Canada, the tougher they are to beat.
Yeah. A big shout out to longtime BTL listener. Had a great finish. We're talking about Charlie Hartley. I think he finished 6th or 7th at that event. I don't have it pulled up, but I know it was a top 10 finish for Charlie. Outstanding event. And I actually called him yesterday to see if we could get him on the show this week, and he did not answer his phone. So I will reach out to him once again just to get him on the show for a few minutes and have him tell the fans and tell us what it was like having another top 10 finish on a place that, man, is there anybody out there that doesn't like that body of water, Ken?
Well, yeah, I mean, even if you finished like 163rd, you probably caught 30 fish that weighed 15 pounds or something. And, not total, but your best 5. And anybody who doesn't like Charlie Hartley simply hasn't met Charlie Hartley.
No, you're right. You're right. All right, man. So that kind of lays out the whole month, folks. And here's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a break, and then I'm going to come back with Ken, and we're going to get into a discussion. My email was absolutely obliterated Friday afternoon. Obliterated, Ken. From fans reaching out to me about a subject, and I'm going to address.
Kind and gentle fans.
Oh, some of them were. Most of them were. There's still some bitter people out there, man. Yeah. Bitter Talk Live. That's what it's not going to turn into, all right? So we're going to take a break, come back, get into that with Ken Duke here on a Monday. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Puts the full range of Lowrance fish finding tools at your fingertips. Find fish with active imaging 3-in-1 with Fish Reveal. Target fish with active target live sonar and watch fish react to your lure as it happens. Built-in C-Map Contour Plus charts make it easy to find key fishing areas. But best-in-class charts and powerful sonar is only the beginning. It's easy to build your fully networked FS system. From sonar and waypoint sharing to controlling the Ghost trolling motor and power pulls. Lowrance Elite FS. Targeting fish just got easier.
Basscat's legendary 20-foot platform has been paired with angler-approved accessories for 2021. Puma FTD features the proven hull used by many of the top names in bass fishing today, backed by a transferable lifetime warranty. The Puma FTD boasts a full team deck concept which enhances efficiency for you and your tournament partners. Turnkey tournament-winning performance. The Puma FTD SP from Basscat.
I've made my living on the water for over 20 years.
For 14 years.
For over 23 years.
I've worn a bunch of different clothing brands over the years.
Some companies big.
And some companies small.
All of them said they were making clothing for us.
But none of them knew us.
None of them were us. Except for one.
Except for one.
Except one.
AFCO.
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 Fishing isn't part of us. It is us.
Everyone, Brandon Polnick here. People always be asking me what I got tied on. I'm like, X-Zone Lures. And they're like, Brandon, why you got X-Zone Lures tied on? And I'm like, let me show you why.
The bite.
Get out of there. Get out of there. Oh, yeah. Oh, get in here. Oh, God. Giant. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
I think you get the point.
There's one.
You know what works. Now you need a bunch of them so you don't run out on your next fishing trip. The Big Bite Pro Packs feature 25 baits per pack at a price far below that of having to buy 5 packs of regular baits. Now the Pro Pack has a big brother, the Mega Pack. The Mega Pack features 100 of your favorite baits.
With these, one bag is usually plenty to get through the day. It helps me stay organized, helps me save money, helps me catch more fish.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
All right, we are back on a Monday, and if you're expecting an interview with Michael Neal, unfortunately, due to the hurricane, Michael was unavailable. You jump on the show, we're going to reschedule him, and if you missed the first part of the show, you can go back and listen to what the schedule is pretty much like for the month of September. So, as I mentioned, Ken, on Friday, and I got a lot going on. I'm getting prepared for our first football game. I'm going to be doing all of the play-by-play for Blanchard High School. I'm also going to be doing the live streaming, and I mean it's part of my curriculum now. So very excited about that.
Have you got a color guy? Or you?
I do.
Excellent.
OU student that's going to be doing the color with me, and hopefully we will get through it. Doing the coaches show on a Tuesday night. So a lot of good stuff taking place to help kids get into this digital age of what I call digital broadcast journalism.
DBJ.
Yeah. So a lot going on.
DBJ.
A lot going on. So we actually had a cross-country meet on Saturday, and we did some testing to actually live stream cross-country. Now, think about that. You got to have cameras and things going on and all different. And what we tested actually worked. So that's something down the line that we're actually going to give a whirl on doing some cross-country. Cross-country's kind of big here in Oklahoma for some reason. It is. A lot of kids doing it, man. I would not even
run that far if someone was chasing me.
No, just running. Just run that way for, I don't know, an hour and a half or whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah, you're overestimating my desire to get away at some point. After about 20 yards, I'm going to turn around and say, "Okay, what do you got? I'll take a swing."
Yeah. I was never really a big fan of running, just to run. I would run, but it would have a purpose.
Exactly. I know a lot of people run to train, but in the words of the great Kenny Powers, I don't want to be best at practice.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So anyway, I was getting ready for this cross-country thing, and I kept getting email after instant message and when I say instant message, I'm not talking social media. There's a section on the Bass Zone website that you can actually click and send me a message through the website. And everybody wanted to talk and give their viewpoint about the situation that occurred with the announcement on Friday of the anglers that were going to move up from the Tackle Warehouse series to the BPT for 2022. And, I can't wait for the show on Monday. I want to hear you talk about it. And honestly, and I use the word honestly because, Ken, I think one of the characteristics about this show for all the years that I've done it is I think people have a really good idea of what I'm like. Not behind this microphone, but in real life based upon how I conduct myself on this show. There is no act. There is no front. This is me.
Oh, no question. And, of course, you and I have never met in person, but no, I'm kidding. Mark and I spent a lot of time together at events and things like that, and I can assure everybody watching that the guy you see on the show is exactly like the guy you would bump into at a bowling alley, at a basketball game, at a bass tournament, at a burger joint, whatever it might be. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
There's no difference.
So when I started to think about this situation that occurred, and if you haven't seen the list, basically the situation is this. You have 10 anglers that were supposed to qualify for the BPT from the Tackle Warehouse series, and I believe 5 of them were double qualifiers, and then only 5 are going to have the invitation to make the move up to the BPT rather than whatever the number was. Look, folks, I'm going to dive into this right now. I don't care if it's fishing, bowling, golf, ping pong, hacky sack, badminton, chess. It doesn't matter. All right. I have always had this premise, and I truly believe in this premise, that if you are going to compete at the highest level, at a professional level, in whatever sport or activity that you're doing, there has to be a defined line. That if you exceed that line, you're going to maintain your tour card, whatever tour that is. It could be Bass, it could be MLF, it could be ABC, it could be PNG, it could be DEC, it could be whatever. I don't care what you're doing out there. There must be a defined line, and you must stick by whatever that defined line is. If everybody knows what that defined line is going into the national ping pong tour or whatever it is, you know what you have to do if you're out there to do one thing: win and keep your tour card. Those two things. You know what that line is. All right? Now, for the world of fishing, a lot of people say, but Mark, it's only 8 events. How can you only do 1 year? You know what? You have a choice. And that's the one thing that I think a lot of people forget about is that word choice. You have a choice. If you don't want to abide by these rules that have been established with that defined number, guess what? Go do something else. That's the beauty of what we're involved in. You have a choice. You have a choice. Now, there could have been situations that have occurred that you may have to get creative to take care of what the situation is until you can get to that defined line. And whatever it is, fishing, bowling, golf, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what organization. If you are a professional organization in that sport. All right, now, if everybody knows what that defined line is, and everybody knows if I don't finish in the top 80%, I'm not going to earn my tour card, so be it. I don't care who you are. There are guys on the PGA Tour over history that have not earned their tour card because they just didn't perform well. It doesn't matter what they've done. But here's the deal. I don't want to hear this from people about, oh, well, the PGA Tour has exceptions due to majors and all this other stuff. No, forget about that. The defined line is this. If you finish in the top 80, and I'm just using the number 100 for simple math to where people can understand, if you have a 100-man field in whatever activity that you are performing at the professional level, it doesn't matter. And you know up front, hey, man, I got to finish in 80th place or higher to maintain my tour card status, you know. But, Mark, wait a minute. There's only 8 events in fishing, or there's only 10 events, or there's only 6 events. Well, you know what? It's that rule for everybody. It's the same playing field for everybody. Everybody's going to have to deal with adversity. Now, having said that, if you have a 100-person field, be it male or female, all right, and 20% do not earn their tour card for the next year, whatever series that you have and whatever activity that you're doing, if you have 20 spots that somebody is going to earn based upon their performance at that lower level tournament, those people need to get those 20 spots. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care what the activity is. I don't care what the sport is. I don't care what the organization is, because those guys know what that line was. They know that if they finish in the top 20, that they're going to get a shot at the highest level of whatever exists for that sport or activity. They have put in their money, they have put in their time, and they have put forth the effort to finish in that top 20 in whatever, I'm just going to call it minor league category, that whatever organization has. There is no, oh, well, but this happened over here, and this happened over here, and we had to deal with this over here. No, I'm sorry. And once again, it doesn't matter if it's ping pong, tennis, golf, bowling, flipping pancakes. I don't care. Because everybody knows what is taking place up front. And quite honestly, if you don't finish in the top 80% of whatever you're doing at the professional level, at whatever activity, you probably are hurting financially. And that organization is probably doing you a favor saying, hey, man, look, you just don't have the game to be out here and make a living. Why don't you go back, work a little harder, do what's necessary to get your game up, go back and try and get one of those 20 spots. So once again, whatever you have done, you are creating a situation where those that perform at a level that everybody knows that you have to perform at, you've achieved that by finishing the top 80% of whatever you're doing. And those that are trying to get to that level, you have that defined line knowing that if you finish in the top 20%, you're going to get those remaining 20 spots. It's simple as that. And I don't care about all of this talk. And if there's pros out there that want to debate me on this, yeah, I can honestly say I have not been put in that position that you're in. All right? That is a great argument on your part. But you know what I do see is I see the struggles of people that are mortgaging everything that they have to try and get one of those 20 spots, that is what matters. All right? You know what that defined line is. You know what you got to do. You know the sacrifice. You know what you have to maintain. You know what you have to perform at the level to maintain your tour card. And if you don't know what that is, shame on you. But that's it. It's having a defined line and having the choice. Because that's something that I think people forget about. You have a choice. You have a choice. All right? And I think the minute that last fish is weighed in whatever organization and whatever tournament, hours later, you should know. In fact, maybe even minutes later, you should know. Man, I didn't earn my tour card next year. No, man, I'm in. I finished in 78th place. And you go on down the road, and those that are trying to get one of those spots know that opportunity is going to be there. All right. Now, if you're in one of those 20% spots that didn't make it back, okay, but we're going to give you an opportunity to earn your way back. You're going to have that opportunity. You're going to have a choice. And once again, folks, I don't care what it is. I don't care who the organization is. I don't care what the activity is. The right thing to do is establish a defined line and stick to it, both at the lower tier and at the highest level of whatever sport or activity that you're doing. All right, you got the floor, Ken.
Well, before you handed me the floor, you threw all kinds of stuff on it. And now I've got to try to mop up where I can. But I'm gonna give it a shot here, Mark Jeffries. First of all, I agree with you in that there should be a clear and bright line as to who is saved and who is cast out. I think that would be great. I think that the biggest problem I see with your total argument is you are, and I know you know this, but I think you are overestimating how strong this sport is. This is a weak sport. Weak with a small audience. That's a massive problem. When you cast a guy out, if you take a guy and you kick him out of the Elite Series, you kick him out of the BPT, he can no longer make a living for the subsequent years to try to make it back. There's not enough money at these lower levels. He's going to have to fish at a loss probably to do that. And I'm not sure that's in anybody's best interest. You know, you talk about sacrifice, and sacrifice in this sport is a word that is not used often enough. Sacrifice should be one of the first words that people throw out when they talk about professional fishing, because most of these guys, I'm talking about the guys who don't have a lot of money behind them, a lot of family money, a rich spouse, they haven't made millions in their career before launching into professional fishing. The guys who don't have those things are making an enormous sacrifice. They're sleeping in their trucks. They're scrimping and saving at every step to try to make a living in this sport. Those guys, and you want to give these people 1 year to make it. You're telling them that in the first year, if you're not in the top 80%, goodbye, good luck, see you later maybe. That is telling everybody who's intelligent to stay out of the sport. That's telling everybody who is good at math and who understands how difficult things are out there. You're telling them, don't get in here because it's crazy tough. The sacrifices are enormous. The chances for success are minuscule, and you just need to stay away because the math is not there. I think that's a big problem. Now, you also railed against the guys who were. I think you've got to give these guys a multi-year guarantee. I don't think any rookie should be kicked out. I think that these performance scores, top 80%, whatever, should be done on a rolling multi-year average, so that you count the most recent year as maybe 50%, 2 years ago is 30%, 3 years ago is 20%, and then you rank them like that. So you give a guy a chance to fight his way back in, and a chance to stay in the highest level, because the highest level is the only way to survive. You can't make a living at these other levels of the sport. You can't make a living in the opens. You can't make a living simply on the Tackle Warehouse tour. There's not enough money in it. If you win an event, maybe you got your expenses covered and then some, but that's about it. It's not really making a living like having a regular job and working 9 to 5 and knowing that the income is coming in and you're going to be able to support yourself. The sport's just not strong enough. And that's one of my big problems. Now, the other thing I would say is you also railed against exemptions. And I'm a proponent of exemptions. And I think the sport needs exemptions for a couple of reasons. One, if you've won a Bassmaster Classic, if you've won a Red Crest, if you've won an Angler of the Year title, you should be guaranteed a certain extended career at the highest level. I'm not saying it should last forever. I'm saying it should bail you out after one bad term, one bad 3-year term or whatever it might be, for a couple of reasons. One, this sport needs to be as fan-friendly as possible. That's the only way we're going to grow it. We've got to be as fan-friendly as possible, and we're remarkably unfan-friendly. Remarkably so. People talk about, the pros are so accessible. The pros are so nice. The sport is so fan-friendly. Well, the pros are accessible. The pros are nice, but we're not fan-friendly because if you're talking about the Bassmaster Elite Series, they're sending half those guys home on Friday night. That means the fan who can come out on Saturday or Sunday and hang out and watch the weigh-in and maybe talk to a guy and get his autograph, he's out of luck if his favorite guy missed a cut. And it's a similar problem even on the MLFLW side. So we're not fan-friendly enough. We need to keep some guys around simply because they have achieved a level of stardom or a level of success that the fans appreciate. And that's what I think is very important on that front. So I want to see a situation where guys are given a chance to stay in the league, where guys are given a chance to protect their investment. And I think that that's really necessary.
Okay, I'm back. The power went out.
and I was wondering about that. I guess, did anybody hear my brilliant response to you?
Yeah. I think they did. I think it kept going. I think what happened was I just went away. So sorry about that, folks. I don't know.
To do at this point, but to shrink away in defeat, I suppose.
Really?
Yeah, because I just killed it. Are you kidding me?
I'm sure you did kill it. So I'm sorry about that.
I'll sum up really quickly.
Okay.
I don't want to see a rookie be cut after 1 year. I think that's wildly unfair for the sacrifice these guys make. I think it takes a year or two for these guys to get established. I want to see a rolling 3-year average for these guys. I think that's fair and appropriate, so that you count 50% maybe for the most recent year, 30% for the year before that, 20% for the year before that, or something like that. I like exemptions. If a guy's won a Red Crest or a Classic, let's give him an exemption so that if he's going to be cut 1 year, he throws that chip on the table and they say, oh, okay, you get to hang around. I remember I was working at BASS in 2006 after the first year of the Elite Series, and the guy who finished dead last that season was Jimmy Houston, who was hands down the fan favorite at events. And I watched Bass cut him. I watched bass cut Jimmy frickin' Houston. And I thought that was one of the most stupid things I'd ever seen. I still think it was remarkably stupid. It was a bad move. It was an anti-fan move. I don't want to see. I'm trying to think of a single anti-fan move that I think is good. I can't. So that was a horrible move, a mistake by Bass. They shouldn't have done it. I never want to see Rick Clunn cut. I think Rick was like 94th this year in the Elites. If Rick Clunn is ever cut from the Elite Series, whoever does that should be hung from the highest tree in Birmingham, Alabama. That's a massive mistake. And to your point, Mark, about if you miss the cut and you're not in the top 80%, you get to go fish the lower level and try to requalify. Well, it's not a very good option. Not that it has to be a good option, mind you, because, hey, if you're in the bottom 20%, you're obviously not wildly successful. But that's basically telling people, when you tell a guy, when you cut a guy from the Elite Series or you cut a guy from the BPT or something like that, you're basically saying to them, in not so many words, go to the other league. Go. Because we're just making it too hard for you to succeed in this one. And it used to be viable when there wasn't a big qualifying process, that a guy could do that. A guy could get cut from Bass and he could pretty well step right into the old FLW tour. But those days are gone. But it's a shame because you cannot make a living at the qualifying levels. You simply can't.
No, you can't.
No, nobody fishing the Opens or the Tackle Warehouse Tour is making a living.
But see, Ken, let me stop you right there and just say this.
And the sport doesn't owe you a living. The sport does not owe anyone a living. But if we want to advance the sport, if we want to see talented anglers rise to the top and succeed, we need to find a way to keep and if we want to grow the sport in terms of fan following, we've got to find a way to keep the stars in the sport, and we've got to find a way to make the sport financially viable for young, talented people. And we're not doing that. And we're certainly not doing that by the cut them all, let God sort them out, Mark Jeffries plan.
No, seriously. From a financial perspective, if you're not in the top 80%, are you making any money?
Yes. Some of the guys who are not in the top 80% are making money because they've established themselves in previous years. They have great sponsorship packages and they're out there. But you know what? You got to protect those guys because many of those guys, the Rick Clunns, the David Fritz and so forth, the guys who had terrible elite seasons, they're the ones people show up to see. They're the guys people want to talk to. I show up, I want to talk to Clunn and Fritz. We got to find a way to keep those guys around. We got to have exemptions for those guys. Now, I'm not saying that the guy who comes in and he's been out there 3 years and he has never finished above 93rd. Yeah, that guy needs a wake-up call and you're probably saving him. You're certainly saving him a lot of money. Maybe you're saving him a lot of heartache by cutting that guy. But for the guys who have achieved something in the sport, we need to find a way to keep those guys around.
All right, let me throw this out at you then, Ken, before the power goes out again. And if the power does go out again, you just keep rolling. All right?
Is it my show then?
It's your show. If the power goes out. Yeah, until I can make it back in. All right. The point I'm trying to make about this 1 year thing is really two things. And I get what you're saying about the seasoned veterans that have done so much for whatever sport that they're involved with. The way that you get through it is you still have that defined line, but then you utilize the exemption status for those guys. Because let's be honest, in whatever activity it is, does the field going from 100 to 110 really matter?
I think Bass's attitude with regard to the 110 is they want to make
I didn't ask for Bass attitude. I asked for Ken Duke. Does it really matter? No.
Not from my perspective.
That's what I'm saying. So what you get then is you still get that defined line toward the guys that have made the choice to pursue this path to make a living. That defined line is still there. And then you know what? You got 5 or 6 guys that finish below 80th place that have that exemption status. Go ahead and let them play whatever it is with that exemption status.
Okay, so instead of a 100 angler field, you're looking at a 105, 106 angler field.
So what?
I agree. So what? But you still want to cut the rookies after one bad year, and I certainly don't want to do that.
All right, here's my premise on that is if you know that this is the career path that you have chosen, and you know that, by gosh, I better go out and I better at least finish in the top 80 to maintain my tour status, then you know what? I truly did earn a spot out there. If you don't finish in the top 80, you shouldn't be out here. And like I said earlier, there are going to be professionals. There are going to be those young tour guys that say, Mark, you're out of your mind. I'm sorry. When did mulligans become the thing where you just say, you know what? We're gonna let you fork out another $70,000, and then if you don't make it after spending $140,000, then maybe you should just go back to the lower level and see if you can make it again. No, give them 1 year. You know what? You finish in 75th place, Ken. You're not making any money anyway.
If you finish in 75th place and you're a rookie without some sort of amazing sponsorship package, then you're not making any money anyway. You're right. But you know what? I think you need to give these guys a better opportunity to establish themselves and to preserve their career. Otherwise, you're gonna deter a significant number. 2 things are going to happen. One is you're going to deter a significant number of talented young anglers from even trying, because they'll realize, wow, this is a spectacularly bad career choice, which it is. And number 2, if Mark Jeffrey's plan protects people who have medical exemptions, 25% of the field is going to get a medical exemption after 3 tournaments. You and I both know that probably half of the medical exemptions that have been gotten through the years have been wildly exaggerated, simply gotten by guys who are off to a terrible start and they're trying to preserve their career. Would you agree?
I'm not even going to comment on that. I'm really not.
Come on, this is the show we tell the truth.
I am telling the truth because this whole medical exemption thing, I think that there should be a protocol that you have to go through, and I don't want to get into that because I don't want to dive into somebody's personal life. But if you do get a medical exemption, there should be a certain protocol that you have to go through to get that medical exemption.
I agree. I believe that you should have to go through a physician selected by the league before you can get a medical exemption. But by the same token, I think even then it's probably fairly easy to get a medical exemption. I think you or I could help a guy get a medical exemption pretty quick, or anybody can get a medical exemption pretty quick.
Well, that's a totally different topic. I know it fits into what we're talking about right here, but I think the protocol for medical red shirts, it needs to be a certain defined process.
Well, you're bringing up a bigger problem. When we discuss this, we're bringing up a bigger problem that the sport has, and that is that the rules are poorly defined. Generally, the rules are generally poorly defined, and that's been a problem from the beginning. There are a lot of rules out there at every tournament circuit. There are a lot of rules, but there are precious few spelled out penalties. We all know we can't do this, we can't do that, but very few of the rules also spell out what the penalties will be. And there's too much discretion. But going back specifically to this requalifying thing, man, you and I are not quite on the same page. We both want a clear, bright line as to where you're in, where you're out. Bass's line, for example, involves some math. And I'm not sure what the calculation is, and they're not going to share it with you. They are not going to share it with you. And you can speculate on why that might be. But it's a problem. And I don't know. You're dealing with a couple of private organizations that have no obligation to share any of that information with you. They're certainly not going to share finances, but hey, they're also not going to share a lot of this other information either. They're not going to tell you who fails polygraphs. They're not going to tell you who's been fined. They're not going to tell you what the penalties are necessarily for every rule. And good luck going online and finding all their tournament rules and the penalties for violation of each of those rules. Good luck with that. And of course, don't even try to look for who's going to make the cut, who's not going to make a cut, because that's not something that is shared.
Once again, Ken, we're going to agree to disagree on this one. I really believe that if you can't finish in the top 80% at the highest level, whatever the activity is, sorry, you're out of here. And that may be harsh. But I'm telling you, dude, let me give you another example. I mean, think about all these YouTube sensations that are out there, and they've made thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Well, what if they start putting out content that people are just like, no, I don't want to watch that anymore. That's not good stuff. Well, then their views go down, and what happens to their revenue stream? Their revenue stream, it goes away. It goes away. You know, when somebody brought up on the comments the Drew Brees situation about how he sucked his first couple of years. Well, I can't recall if he sucked his first couple of years, but you know, that is a unique comparison because there are so many variables because you're in a team situation. There are many other factors that deal with the success of a professional quarterback than a professional angler.
Agreed. All true. And Drew Brees' situation, I think he was with the Chargers originally. He also had some health issues. And I think, as I recall, the Chargers were concerned about his health issues. And he had, of course, to pass a physical before he could go to the Saints. The Chargers saw a brighter future with Phillip Rivers, I think. So, but anyway, it is different. And one of the most important differences that's not perhaps so obvious is that is a wildly popular, successful sport and league. The NFL is 10,000 light years ahead of professional bass fishing. And so, yeah, that's a big difference there. But yeah, I don't want to see these young guys cut, but not just because I see an injustice when a young guy gets cut. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. That's a case-by-case deal. But because I'm concerned about the chilling effect it would have on many other young anglers considering taking that step. Because anybody smart, in my opinion, anybody bright with options would never choose professional bass fishing if that were the case.
Yeah, but they're lined up, Ken. They're lined up. Look at the opens.
I think you're overestimating how many people are really lined up. Because you look at these guys who think they're ready to take that next step. Most of them are not successful. Most of them are not successful at all. Now, are they not successful because they're not good? Are they not successful because they don't have the financial capital to give them some sort of freedom to fish without constantly looking in their wallet? I don't know. But they're not successful. You look at where the rookies finish, and I can show you at least where the bass rookies have done through the years. A low percentage of them qualify for our top 50 after 1 year, and a high percentage of them are in the bottom 20%, a very high percentage. I think it's probably 25 to 30% of rookies are in that bottom 20%. So that's a problem. I guarantee you a higher percentage of NFL players are rookies than that.
No, I get it.
That's for another reason. That's because they're cheap. That's because they're young. That's because they're healthy. So we need to stop making the NFL analogy. But, a significant percentage of NFL players are rookies. A significant percentage of successful touring bass pros are not.
Maybe the fishing world needs, when you take all of the top level, and let's just face it, the BBT and the Elite Series, top two pinnacles for both organizations. I mean, maybe you only need 40 guys in each of those. I'm not saying that. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe you only need 50. I don't know what the number is, according to what you're saying, though, Ken. What I am trying to get to, there's really three conclusions to this entire conversation. One, there definitely needs to be a defined line, both in who's getting cut and when that last fish is being weighed and the weigh-in is closed that day, you're either in or you're out. Whatever, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, whatever it is, that's one conclusion I've come to. The second thing is whatever the number is from that lower tier in whatever organization or activity is, you're in. If the number's 10 and you finish 10th in the points, you're in. And if there's double qualifiers for some apparent reason, you go down that list because those are the people that have stepped up to the plate and said, you know what, I'm willing to take this risk. They're the ones that performed. And I think that's where it kind of gets lost. They're the ones that performed. Give them the opportunity. That defined number, that defined line. And then the third thing is the realization of how many people out there that truly, truly have the resources, the work ethic, the dedication, and the financial planning to be able to do this for a living is minimal.
Yes.
Agree or disagree with those statements, Ken?
I agree. You made a statement early in that comment there, Mark, about you didn't know how many anglers we needed to have at this level, and you said it might be 35 or something like that. First, let me address that one. I'm not saying there's a magic number. But I think the number 100 in a league is a good number. And maybe by that I mean 50 in each league so that you have a total of 100. I think that's a pretty good number. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you why. I think if you reduce it below that number, you on some level you decrease the size of our sport. Here's how and why. With 100 anglers in the Elite Series, 80 in the BPT, there is room for a smaller company to get involved. If I make jigs in my garage and I'm trying to break into that jig market, and there's 100 guys in the elites and there's 10 new rookies coming out, I might be able to strike a deal with one of those guys. If there are only 35 guys out there, I can't play. I can't afford any of the top 35 guys, and I know that. Maybe I can't afford any of the top 70 guys, but I might be able to afford that rookie who may or may not hit it big. So I don't like the idea of cutting the field and making it so small that you cut some smaller manufacturers out. And all you got to do is look at the jerseys to see some of the names on there. And you can look at the jersey of a Edwin Evers or a Kevin Van Dam or a Skeet Reese, and you can say, wow, those are all mostly big players. And then you look at the jersey of a rookie out there, and you can say, my God, I haven't heard of half of these companies. And the reason they're able to play is because of that guy. So I don't want to see the field cut too much.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And Mark, I was glancing at some of the comments that I'm seeing over on the YouTube side. And once again, I think some of the guys watching, listening, are falling into the same trap that we were falling into earlier. They're looking at other sports. And you really can't do that fairly because the sports are at different levels. One guy says you can't keep Michael Jordan if he's not performing. Another guy says you're not going to keep Tom Brady into his 70s. Well, that's right on some level, because But the problem is the NBA and the NFL are wildly successful, and roster sizes are such that if you wanted to keep Michael Jordan on a 15-man roster, you certainly could. If you want to keep Tom Brady on a 54 or 65 or whatever the NFL roster is these days, you certainly could. You have to make a decision as to whether your team is going to be competitive on the field, or whether you just simply want to be competitive on the balance sheet. One guy, Richard Griffin, seems to agree with you. He says, if you didn't make it, you didn't make it. The best will survive. Well, that's fine to have that attitude, but I would say that Richard Griffin is ignoring the fact that the first audience we need to serve is not the pro angler. If the pro angler is the most important person in your equation, you got a problem. You got a problem, because you are quickly going to lose sight of your audience, and you're quickly going to lose them. That's what happens when you cut Jimmy frickin' Houston.
Man, you don't really, you didn't like that, did you?
It was stupid. It was stupid. And the people who made that decision were idiots.
But he has a record. He does have a record, though. You know what that record is, Mr. Stats Guy?
What's that?
He's one of only 2 people to make it through the entire Elite Series season without getting a check.
Yeah, I think there might be more than that. But
that was back when it was 12 events or 11 events.
What is it about guys from Oklahoma who can't make a check?
And the guy that has the longest streak in Elite Series history is from Oklahoma, too.
Oh, that's what I mean. You can point to a handful of guys from Oklahoma, and you can say, wow, this was not a good career choice.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying on this is, you've got to – anybody who's trying to build a sport, and anybody who I think has a good plan for doing that, has to look to the fan first and the athlete second, or third or fourth. Maybe you look at the fan first, and then maybe you look at the sponsorship second. But down the road somewhere, you got to find a way to try to make the athlete happy as well. Because if you don't have fans and you don't have sponsors, you got nothing to give the athlete.
All right. I'm gonna wrap this up by saying this, and it might be a bad comparison, but at the same time, I think it's a good one. When it comes to collegiate athletes that go on to play professional sports in whatever sport that they are playing in during their NCAA period, the number is 3. The last number I saw was 3.27% of collegiate athletes go on to play at the next level. Now, you think about some of the people out there that have spent time, effort, money from the time that they were 8 years old all the way until they were a Division I athlete, and yet they were not able to achieve what they were trying to achieve because they just didn't have it. They didn't have the quickness. They didn't have the hands. They didn't have, the strength at that level because they were 6'2", 210 pounds, and could only bench 250 or whatever, and ran terrible routes. They had a 4.7 40 or a 5.0 40 or whatever out there, and they just don't make it. Somebody made the point out there that this is supposed to be the best of the best at the highest level. And if you have the choice, and I'm going to go back to the choice word, Ken, if you make that choice that this is what you want to do in life, then by gosh, you better know what the rules are, and you better know what you need to do financially, commitment-wise, all right, accountability-wise, and dedication-wise to be able to try and achieve what you want to do if this is the career path that you want to take.
Well, I love a lot about what you're saying, but I think that that there are some comments worth making to kind of adjust the attitude there.
Yeah.
And one is that that the big time sports, baseball, football, basketball, even track and field, they are light years ahead of us. Those are the best of the best. They are. We do not see the best of the best in bass fishing. We don't, because our sport is not financially strong enough to get those people involved. We aren't. Mark, what's the ideal size and weight of a flipper? Or
it could be anybody.
We don't know. No, it could not be anybody. There is probably an ideal size and weight for a guy who flips and pitches a lot. There's probably an ideal, arm span for a guy who throws a deep dive crankbait as far as he can. There's probably a certain set of exercises you should do to have the best hook setting ability. But you know what? We don't know that because our sport is not strong enough and doesn't have the finances to do that, to find that out and to support it. We don't have the best of the best. We have some terrific anglers, but they are terrific because they've made the sacrifice, not because we've made some real determination about what our sport is about and how people can perform. And I know I'm talking in this grandiose way about the sport, but you know what? The big boy sports have an idea about those things because they have a lot of money behind it. And when you get a lot of money behind it, people get really serious about it. More people strive to participate. More people strive to develop them. If you're an aspiring NFL athlete, you've got a certain diet, nutrition plan you're on. You've got certain exercises you do. You're expected to be able to run the 40-yard dash, to your point, in something under 4.5 seconds. You're expected to be able to bench press 400 pounds, 25 reps in 2 minutes or something. And there is this awareness. If you're going to be a power forward in the NBA, you better be 6'9" or better, and you better be able to have this vertical leap, or they're not even going to consider you. There is nothing like this in bass fishing for two reasons. One, money. But two, this is vitally important. Somebody was making this point on YouTube a moment ago. But number two is this. These are team sports that we're talking about. You can't really compare the team sports with bass fishing. Bass fishing is not a team sport where a team is deciding if they're going to cut a guy or not cut a guy. That decision is not being made here. These guys are hanging out there as best they can, making the sacrifices as they need to, and they're staying or leaving on the basis of what the league has decided about their performance.
Hey, man, I appreciate the fans' comments on this. It's been a very active topic, and the fans that watch this show, the fans that love this game, they are very engaged in what takes place, and that's one cool thing about this game, Ken, is the compassion and engagement that fans have in this game. That's one thing that is common with other sports, because you have those fanatical people in other situations, but it just seems like that the fans that love this game are at another level in what I always refer to as the swimming pool compared to the ocean.
Now, I'm glancing at some of these, and I love your analogy about the swimming pool versus the ocean. And I love what Paul Hamm is mentioning about a high school recruiting program, adding high school fishing to its athletic recruiting program and platform. And that's wonderful. But the difference between a high school and professional in terms of expenditures, in terms of exposure, in terms of all these things is, again, a big gap. And William Clark made the comment that bass fishing is getting to be a big sport. No, it's not. No, it's not. You're wrong.
Swimming pool.
Yeah, bass fishing. Let me throw out a few stats that I've thrown out on BTL probably before. When the Bassmasters aired on TNN back in 1984 for the first time, 300,000 people watched. When the Bassmasters aired a month or two ago and announced, it had Seth Feider winning Angler of the Year at the St. Lawrence, 300,000 people watched. The same number 37 years apart. We're not keeping up with population growth, William Clark. We are not. There were more bass anglers, more people identified as bass anglers in 1991 than in 2021. What you're seeing is a lot of exposure and noise about high school, but the sport is not growing. Do you really think high school and college programs are growing the sport? They are not. They are not. They're getting guys who are already bass fishing into some competition at the high school and college level. Fishing as a sport starts for people below the age of 12. I've looked at a lot of studies about this. If you're not fishing by the age of 12, there's only about a 3% chance you're ever going to buy a fishing license in your life. Okay? What are we doing to create anglers before the age of 12 in the world of bass fishing? I'll tell you what we're doing. Nothing. Nothing. or at least not anything terribly significant. A friend of mine in Texas, Shane Wilson, and Fishing's Future, they're working hard to grow the sport and doing a good job of it, I would say. We gained 8.5 million anglers last year due to COVID.
Yeah.
They're not bass anglers, at least not yet.
Yeah.
You can tell me that, the ramps are more crowded than I've ever seen them before. Well, that's anecdotal evidence. That's ground level view. We need to take a 30,000 foot view and see what the real numbers are. And the real numbers come from state licensing agencies and from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And what those numbers show is that until last year, thanks to COVID, we finally exceeded the number of anglers we had in 1991. Between 1991 and 2020, the number of anglers in the U.S. went down. It went down. Population skyrocketed. Population grew faster than ever. But the number of anglers actually went down as a raw number. Not as a percentage, but as a raw number, it went down. That's tragic and seems almost unfathomable. But of course, we're losing these people to video games and television and any number of other opportunities. The baby boomers were the biggest angling generation by far. Mark, that's you and me.
Yeah.
The number of anglers is not only down, but the number of anglers who identify as bass anglers is down. It's down. So when your overall number of anglers is down and the percentage of anglers who identify as bass anglers is down, you tell me which way the sport is growing. You tell me which way the sport is going.
Yeah.
Let me throw another number at you.
Yeah.
Last year, there were maybe 7,000 glass boats, motors, and trailers sold. Bass boats. Let's call it 16 feet or longer. Maybe 17,000 of those sold. In the late 80s and early 90s, that number was 30 or 35,000. So you tell me how great we're doing.
Yeah.
We're not. Instead, what we're doing is we're believing the hype. We're believing the hype. Don't buy the hype. Buy the message. And you're listening to the noise instead of the message, guys, if you're believing that this sport is growing. This sport is not growing like we're being told it is.
You know what the message is, Ken?
What's that?
You know what the message is?
The
message is,
Mark?
I think we both agree that there needs to be that defined line. Do we agree on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Now we're taking a step back into pro bass fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're thank you for containing me. I don't know what my blood pressure is, but my heart rate, but it's not great right now.
Hey, you know what one of the toughest things to do when you're coaching, it doesn't matter what sport, is when you have to sit down with a kid and you put together a plan on him getting better. You need to do this. You need to work on your crossover. You need to work on your 3-point. You need to do this.
Yeah.
You need to, and then the kid doesn't follow through with the plan that you put together. And then you have to bring that kid back in and go, hey, man, guess what? We're going to have to cut you. And he gets cut. And then he looks back and he goes, why are you cutting me? but yet you knew exactly what you had to do to be successful on this team and be a part of this team. And we put together a game plan for you to get to that point, and you didn't achieve it. So sorry, man. Hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. But you're cut, and that's at any level. It doesn't matter. So I think the guys that earn that spot need to get that spot. And when you know what the defined line is, if you don't achieve that and perform above that line, whatever the criteria is, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10, whatever the criteria is, soon as you walk off that stage and whatever you're doing, you should know, hey, I earned my tour card for next year. Agreed, Ken?
I absolutely agree with you. And I love that, you're a basketball coach. You know how to teach young people, and you give them that curriculum or that plan for getting ahead. How many good bass fishing coaches do you think there really are at those high school and college levels? And what kind of meaningful guidance are they really giving those guys?
Some I think do a great job. Others, I think there's good flippers.
And you know what? Here's my concern. You talk about cutting the kid who didn't make the grade there. Maybe he didn't follow through on the instructions you gave him. Maybe he did everything you asked him to do, but he still didn't have the speed, the vertical leap, whatever it might be. That's a shame. You hate to see that kid give up basketball. Mm-hmm. I hate to see the kids who aren't successful in the high school and college bass programs give up bass fishing. One of the commenters said something about, hey, you can just walk across the boats on my lake now. Well, that's a COVID thing. We gained 8.5 million anglers last year. The truth is we're going to lose most of them. That's inevitable. Of the people who buy a fishing license 1 year, let's ignore the COVID year.
Yeah.
But of the people who buy a fishing license 1 year, only about 55 or 60% of them will buy a license the next year. We have to recreate the rest of that audience every year, or we lose anglers. Now, here's what happens after any economic downturn like we had in 2020, at least everyone for which there are numbers to kind of quantify it. People go fishing. At 2008, people go fishing. 2001, people go fishing. 2020, people go fishing. But then they go back to work. Then the economy stabilizes itself again, and those people leave fishing in great numbers. Whatever our gain was, we've typically lost just as much, if not more, because those people who lost some income are then going to be back in the workforce, and they're going to be working harder than ever to try to make up for what they lost. So we gained 8.5. If we can keep 4 of those 8.5 million, we've done absolutely great. But when you tell me the ramps are crowded, I see the ramps are crowded too. But I also look and I know that there's going to be a bounce back factor there. Enough of my rant.
Yeah, great conversation, and I hope the fans definitely see the points that both of us are trying to make and understand that. I mean, our heart and soul is obviously in this game. I opened up this show by saying, "Look, what you see is what you get with me," and if anybody out there doesn't think that I don't care about this game and the future of the game and everything that's taken place in this game, then obviously you haven't really grasped what I've done spending 25 plus years building what we've built, talking and covering this sport at the professional level and really at the local and regional level too.
I, however, I'm entirely different when I'm not on Bass Talk Live. I'm actually much taller and better looking in person.
Yeah. Ken. Wow. Anyway, all right. Final thing, and then I've got to get to class. I'm going to be pushing it here. We're going to have Mike Iaconelli on the show tomorrow. I think what he's doing with this new show is fantastic. Does he move the needle in a capacity of what he's tried to accomplish before, Ken, by trying to get that non-fishing fan follower exposed by the utilization of getting big-name guys in other sporting venues the opportunity to see what his world is all about, and by having Iaconelli be a part of what this other athlete's world is like? What are your thoughts?
I think that's a tough row to hoe. When I went to work at Bass many years ago, I worked for a guy who was the director of communications. I was in the communications department initially. And he was thrilled whenever there would be a mention of BASS or one of the pro anglers in a non-endemic publication. If you could get somebody in Car and Driver magazine, oh my God, that was a huge deal. And part of that may have been because he was not a bass fisherman himself. But part of it was he just thought it was great whenever you got into another area that you wouldn't expect to see bass fishing. I didn't feel that way about it. I thought, well, the distance we've got to pull that Car and Driver subscriber to get him into bass fishing is a great distance. It's a major chore. I was always more excited when we were able to get BASS mentions in a hunting magazine or in a big three outdoor publication like, well, back in the day, Field and Stream or Sports or Outdoor Life, because the pull is far shorter there.
Mm-hmm.
Far shorter. We're much more likely to pick up some of those people. So I think that's what if Mike's goal is to get people from MMA to bass fishing, I'm going to wish him a lot of luck.
Well, I don't think that's what the goal is with the show, though, Ken. I really don't. I think it is an opportunity to showcase the game to a different fan base, of which it's that cross promotion. But at the same time, I think it's a very interesting concept to get guys that are at the top level in this game that is outside of fishing to really see and understand what Mike's world's all about. And at the same time, the fishing fans get to see what the world is like for these MMA fighters, bowlers, golfers, whatever the case is.
I think you're telling me a secondary or tertiary goal, Mark. I think the goal of the show is to get viewers.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
Any way possible. And I think the secondary goal may be, let's get them to take a good look at fishing. And the third goal would be, let's get them to join our community as an angler. But I think goal number one is just to get people to watch. And I think part of the goal of a program like that is to get people to watch who are from that MMA world or whatever, or the bowling world or whatever it might be. And because when you get eyeballs, you get ad dollars.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate that it's not on a wide network, cable network. I have some friends that their cable package or satellite package does not have CBS Sports Network. So it's not on mainstream CBS. It is on what I call a sub-network for sports. But we'll see. We'll see what the reaction is. I've seen some highlight clips, and I saw a little clip of when he took Kyle Troop out, the bowler. And it's a great concept, pretty cool, and we'll talk to Mike about it tomorrow. But if you do have CBS Sports on your cable or satellite package, check it out tonight. I think it's 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm not sure on that. I think it is 7 p.m. But Ken, I value your thoughts, your opinions. I know the fans do also. We had a great conversation today, and I think we definitely agreed upon a number of points and disagree on others, but that's what makes our friendship, man. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, we agree on the big things, I think, in almost every case.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me, man. Mark Jeffries knows how to get me fired up.
Well, you know, people complain about being loud, but tell them, Ken, I'm just a loud person. I'm just
Mark
loud.
is a loud person.
I just, that's how I've rolled all my life.
To talk with Mark for more than a few minutes. Look at all the interests he has, whether it's basketball or bowling or bass fishing. Within 5 minutes, you're going to find something that Mark Jeffries is passionate about and has a strong opinion about, and he's going to get loud.
Ken, man, you're special dude, and glad that you have time to come on the show and spread your knowledge to myself and the fans. So great job. Look forward to having you on tomorrow with Ike, and then where's my calendar at? And then
Bobby Lane
on Wednesday, and the announcement of the 2022 BPT schedule with Mike Malone. So look forward to that.
That's very cool to get that, to have that debut on BTL. That is spectacular. Yeah. What a statement as to your position and standing in the industry, my friend.
Yeah. Well, been doing it a while, just like you, Ken. We'll see. We'll see. I'm interested because I have no idea what lakes they're going to. I really don't. They could go to the small venues, but obviously with these organizations now, the number one key is money, and then the number two is they got to have cell service.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. But great stuff. Thank you for all the comments, and we will be back tomorrow, Ken and myself, 8:30 a.m. Central Time, right here on BTL. So great stuff, Ken. Thanks, man.
My pleasure, Mark. Thanks a lot.
All right, that's it. We're out of here. See you tomorrow.